Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Worked out by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Happy Friday. I hope your week was great. You're ready for the weekend. Whether or not, it's here, so it doesn't matter. Hope you're ready. We got a full show today. Man. Of course, we'll have Alec Lasley on to update college basketball recruiting. J.Q. Roberts is going to join us. Zach Osterman, Jeffrey the Greek, and Scott Green representing the opposition this week from the Maryland Terrapins as Indiana travels to College Station to take on Maryland. And it's basically a do or die game for Indiana. They every game is a must win for them, especially a game like Maryland, an unranked team, because Indiana's played so many ranked teams. But the back half of their schedule is a little more forgiving. Maryland, however, they also need this game because the back half of their schedule is not so forgiving. I think I sent a tweet out yesterday that I think 3 out of Maryland's last 5 games are against ranked teams. I think they play Michigan State, Michigan, and Penn State yet. And so they need 2 more wins to become bowl eligible, and the 2 non-ranked teams are Indiana and Rutgers, I think, that they have on their schedule. So both teams basically fighting to stay alive. Indiana's bowl hopes seem to be on life support, to be quite honest. When you're expected or you have to win on the road, that's going to make it difficult, especially when you're an underdog already. I'll have to look at the spread again, but I can't remember. Indiana's at least like a 7-point underdog, John.
They were 5.5 last time I looked.
Yeah, Las Vegas does not have a lot of hope for Indiana in that game. But we'll talk about that and a lot more. Basketball recruiting, of course. Alec Lasley will join us to get caught up on that. High school football tonight. You got the playoffs out and about. Go out and support a high school game. Those games are all over the place. Plenty of great games going on. Of course, it was reported that Bob Knight visited basketball practice. Saw that Mike posted a picture of him and Coach sitting down just like old times. Coach, it was an honor having you at practice today, Bobby Knight. So how about that? Very cool to see that. It's a great picture of him sitting there next to Mike Woodson. So pretty cool to see that. Whether you're a fan or not, it's just it's nice to see those things kind of come together. Appreciate everybody joining us on. I got to get this thing moved over so I can see all the comments. Everybody jump, the Music Man. Happy Friday, Jesse. Appreciate you. 5 Lefts, Wyatt, Ed. Yeah, Coach Knight at practice yesterday. That was pretty cool, to be honest with you. Ed and Chris. So there you go. Appreciate everybody jumping on and seeing how things are going. John Boy, what is your schedule this weekend?
Man, this weekend, obviously, I'll be watching Indiana football tomorrow. Hopefully won't be disappointed in that. Man, other than that, I'm glad to not have much to do. I was at a wedding last weekend, so that was very busy. So this week's kind of the complete opposite. Going to be enjoying my weekend, watching some football, and taking it all in, hoping to see the Hoosiers pull it out this time.
Well, there's plenty of football to watch, and we'll be talking about that. Let's see, I got to get, the Big Ten games. There are, and we'll be talking about that later, of course, with Jeffrey the Greek and Scott Green later on in the show here separately. But Jeffrey the Greek, he's a former Iowa player, but covers mainly the entire Big Ten. But there are some there are some important Big Ten games this weekend that I can't wait to be able to watch. I'm not going on the road this weekend, so we're sending someone. So I'll get to watch some football. But, man, Michigan at Michigan State might take the cake. Well, it does take the cake. That's a noon game, but the implications in that game are gigantic for them, for the Big Ten East as well. Michigan 7-0 right now, ranked number 6. Michigan State is not, since we've seen them play. I have not seen Michigan play in person yet. Michigan State is okay, but they're not that great. Indiana, I think that with any semblance of offense would have beat Michigan State. That's one of the games that they lost that I was like, man. But they've done what they needed to do up until this point, and they have not lost a game. But I don't think that now the game is at Michigan State in East Lansing, so that'll help Sparty a little bit. But I think Michigan is the better team. But we'll find out. I wonder if the line is on that. The one I have pulled up is not showing the lines. I'll have to switch to that. But Iowa travels to Wisconsin as well. Yeah, that might be a good game there, because I don't know that Iowa's as good as Indiana made them look. Purdue travels to Nebraska. Now, that's an important game for Purdue because they have been up and down. Nebraska has been up and down. That's going to be Nebraska's 3-5. The Boilers are 4-3. They need 2 more games for bowl eligibility. Nebraska's, they're wanting to try to get to a bowl game. And a home win there would make them 4-5 and have that within reach. What's the remainder of their schedule look like? Ooh, they got Iowa and they've got Wisconsin. Oh, and they've got Ohio State. Yeah, life is going to be rough for Nebraska. Even if they win, even if they beat Purdue, they host the Ohio State Buckeyes the next week. Then they travel to Wisconsin and then host Iowa. So bowl eligibility for the Huskers, that's going to be tough to achieve. Purdue, on the other hand, where are they sitting right now? What did I just say? 4, or they already have 4 wins, I believe. Yeah. So they travel to Nebraska. Tough game, but they can win that. But then they host Michigan State. Then they travel to Ohio State. Yeah, they've got a much easier path to bowl eligibility. Their last 2 games are against Northwestern, and they host Indiana. So Purdue, I would be shocked if Purdue does not become bowl eligible this year. It would be surprising because they have a much easier path. There's 3 winnable games for Purdue out of their last 5. They're not going to beat. I don't think. Well, you know what? They could have more. They host Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State is as good as their record shows. And a funky offense that Jeff Brom could produce out there, that maybe fits for Michigan State. So they could end up winning 7 games. They could turn their season around. But Indiana's got a tough road to hoe. Indiana is going to be hard-pressed to become bowl eligible, just to be flat honest. At only 2 wins right now and needing 4 more. We know what the schedule lies ahead for them. They're on the road at Maryland as an underdog. You got to travel to Michigan. You got Rutgers. You got Minnesota at home, but then you travel to Purdue. So they've got to upset someone. Who can Indiana upset? Can they upset Maryland this weekend? That would be an upset. And this is a game they have to have. They have to have an upset somewhere. I don't see them winning at Michigan, I'll be honest with you. St. Tom Allen on Twitter pointed out on this day in 2016, Indiana beat Maryland 42-36 with Divine Redding, Tyler Nate, and Xander Diamont all rushing for more than 100 yards. Yeah, that was that patchwork offense when Nate Sudfeld went down, I think, in that year in the Iowa game. And that was crazy times, man. Xander Diamant, he was he got thrust into the quarterback situation. It reminds me of the clip from Any Given Sunday when Dennis Quaid, the main quarterback, goes down. So they send the backup in, I think, and he got hurt. And someone told the team doctor, I forget who guy was playing him, but he said, so-and-so got hurt. He said, what happened? Did he fall off the bench? That was one of the funniest lines I think I've ever heard. But yeah, tons going on. And we're looking forward to it. Yeah, that was the old days of even those football teams for Indiana. They still made it kind of exciting, even though they had a complete patchwork on offense. I mean, Xander Diamant is your quarterback. That was just almost funny. But man, he gave teams fits because he would go out there and run around like a madman with his chicken, like a chicken with his head cut off. And it was pretty entertaining, to be honest with you. You look back upon it. Oh yeah, there you go. Then Xander, he lit up the big cigar. They beat Purdue at the end of the year and had the big cigar. Five Left says he thinks he's won their share of games this season. Unfortunately, that could be right, because when you don't have a true quarterback, you don't have a guy that's really set to be your quarterback going in to be quarterback, and that's where they are right now. But I'll be honest with you, Grant Grimmel, he's got nothing to lose. I'm sure he feels a lot of pressure, but he's got nothing to lose, man. He's not supposed to be ready. He's not supposed to be in there. He's a walk-on. They don't expect it. So I think that's how Xander Diamant approached it. He was like, man, I'm not supposed to be here. This is not supposed to happen. So he just made the best of it, and it was pretty entertaining. Hopefully that could be the case here. Chris says, too bad we can't get that kid from Texas now. Yeah, no, he'll be up at midseason, but not in time for this, unfortunately. There you go. Don, how are you doing, brother? Ed asked, will Scott survive if Nebraska doesn't make a bowl? That's a great question. I said before the season, they have to. Now, they seem to show progress early in the year, but if they do not make a bowl game again, I don't see how they keep him. I don't see why they would keep him, because it just hasn't gone anywhere. The Nebraska program has done zilch under Scott Frost, but I don't know they also have a new AD. Remember that. And ADs tend to leave when they know there's some writing on the wall. Fred Glass left prior to Archie's dumping Archie, because he knew that was going to have to happen, and he was the guy that hired him. So that we see that. So I don't know that you do, but Nebraska's a tough place. We got to take a break. We got plenty coming to you today. A loaded schedule. We're back with Alec Lasley. Brought to you by the great folks at Southern Stone Restaurant. Don't forget there. It's where you can catch all the men's and the basketball and football coaches shows. Great place to eat. Located at Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. Was there the other night. Can't wait to get back. Hey, we're back with more right here on Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration or just
Do you have a picture, Alec? Oh, there you go.
It was just taking a little while to get the video up there.
Hey, did we have anything up about about Mike or Knight attending practice yesterday?
I was on the forum, and then on social media.
So, but we don't have anything up on the site.
Not as of right this very second.
Well, other people did about 12 hours ago, so we really missed out on that. All right, what do we got there, Alec?
Clowney coming up on Monday.
Yep.
JQ Roberts was on campus last weekend. Obviously the Xavier Booker visit, and then obviously the Ja'Kai Newton stuff that happened after we talked on Friday, and then the Belmont scrimmage tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
The secret.
The secret scrimmage.
The secret scrimmage.
I'm assuming that's a term that was birthed back when they were actually secrets. No one knew about them until after they happened. Oh.
They used to be a lot more secret. No one really knew of the scrimmages before they happened, and then afterwards they would start to kind of come out. But now over the past 3-4 years, everyone knows what happens, and the teams tweet out videos and even some tweet out unofficial box scores. So it doesn't. Yeah, it's
all right. Here we go.
Weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, here on this Friday. I hope you are ready for the weekend. I certainly am. Alec Lasley joining now from the Hoosier.com, Indiana Rivals. Alec, how's it going?
good. How you doing?
Cannot complain. Even though there's not a lot going on, there's a lot going on in the world of college basketball, especially for Indiana. But, of course, the biggest headline for that are people waiting for Monday's decision by Mr. Clowney.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a long time coming for Indiana fans. The last kind of remaining class of 2022 prospect that Indiana is really going after and has been for quite some time. He took his official visit to Alabama this past weekend, one that was rescheduled from late in September. That, by all accords, went really well. Going into that visit, it was more Indiana, Virginia Tech. Kind of after that visit, it looks like it's Indiana, Alabama, and then Virginia Tech kind of in that third spot right now. The biggest thing with him is style of play, and I think based off of what we've heard from Mike Woodson and what you can remember seeing from Nate Oates in Alabama over the past two-ish years, is both are going to play up-tempo, both are going to like to get out and run in transition, and that's something that Noah Clowney really wants to be able to do. Doesn't really want to be boxed into more of a kind of half-court setting. And I think the biggest thing that really kind of flipped the script for Indiana was having Mike Woodson be able to show Clowney on his visit what he did with Race Thompson and Trace Jackson-Davis down in the Bahamas. Because, again, no one knows exactly what the offense is actually going to look like since we haven't really seen a game yet. So that was a big turning point in that recruitment for Indiana and Clowney. Going over on the Bama side, right, they're very, very guard-heavy. A lot of the offense revolves around 3-4 kind of guard, small ball type of offense. They really haven't had a big man go through that program with Nate Oates from freshman to senior year and really progress and get a lot of ball dominance in that offense system. So it'll be interesting to see what he ends up doing based off of those two aspects, because we know Trace Jackson-Davis is going to be the main go-to guy for Indiana this year. And that's really been what he's been harping on with Clowney is look what we're going to do with this front court. Look how we're going to utilize them and use them. and go from there. So I think biggest thing is really going to come down to how exactly he sees himself fitting in both of those offenses and trusting, I guess, more so both of those coaches, because they really haven't shown what they're going to do with the true front court player up to this point.
Yeah, and of course he would be the centerpiece and the final jewel in this recruiting class. And if you look across, I've noticed that it's positionally perfect. You've just got different position guys all across the board in that class, and it would certainly be I don't know if it'd be the crown jewel in the class, but probably certainly close to it.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's probably the most important piece in the class too, because you look at the Indiana front court over the next 2 years, and you're not going to have Race Thompson, you're not going to have Trace Jackson Davis. Michael Doerr's he has 2 years left, but who knows if he plays both years. And then Logan Duncombe. That's it right there. Really no depth, and we've seen over the past few seasons, if you don't have depth up front, you don't need guys who are going to come in and play 20-30 minutes a game at that position, but you need at least 4 bodies that can kind of bang down low, get rebounds, and be that physical presence. And although he's not a guy who's always going to bang down low, he's kind of more of a skilled and finesse player. He does bring that 6'10" body and that physical presence to get a big rebound, set a big screen, and just create a big mismatch. So I think if he ultimately chooses Indiana, that's going to be one that is going to be probably the icing on the cake for that class.
I know that it's hard to put that, but what's your crystal ball saying? With Alabama getting the last visit, you always – I would always prefer to be the last visit, because that's kind of what's fresher in your mind, and Alabama was his last visit. But what's the crystal ball saying right now?
Yeah, I have a couple more people to talk to over the next day and a half here, but Indiana's been trending in the right direction ever since that visit. I think they really got out in front of that recruitment after that visit and really put a lot of pressure on the remaining 3 schools to kind of play ball up on that level. Alabama definitely had a really strong visit, though. So I think at this point I'm still trending towards Indiana for Clowney, for that reason that they do have what we talked about, the forwards, the big men, that at least he were able to see how they would be used in the Bahamas. But Alabama's definitely putting up a fight. I think a lot more of a fight than people thought a month ago or even 2 weeks ago.
Well, I understand. I mean, he would be a crown jewel for them as well, and a little closer to home, being since he's from South Carolina. I'm sure that they're talking that as well. But I would think the NBA experience that Mike Woodson brings would certainly shadow that. Nate Oates is a good coach. He's done a really good job. But as far as the NBA and putting guys in the league, he doesn't have a track record of that. So Mike Woodson definitely has a leg up on that in that regard. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the biggest thing again is just what Mike Woodson has been able to do already. Noah Clowney still wants to be part of that kind of fanfare. He loved his visit so much because of how much the fans put into that visit for him. And he knows how much basketball means to the state of Indiana and obviously to that program. And he wants to be part of kind of that first class with Mike Woodson, with that 2022 class, all of his players basically coming in and being able to really change the culture and be kind of that springboard for bringing, Indiana basketball back to what it should be. With Alabama, obviously, it's always going to play second fiddle behind Alabama football. There's never going to be a difference there. So while the fans do enjoy the basketball program, it's just never going to be the same fandom that Indiana basketball has. And that's another kind of piece that I think Noah Clowney really, really enjoyed at his Indiana visit.
Some other guys as well. JQ Roberts, who will be on with us today, a local product here from Bloomington, also recently in on a visit.
Yep, he visited Indiana last weekend. Obviously a local guy, so he can kind of come and go as he pleases there to campus. But he's now been on campus, I want to say 3 or 4 times here in the past 2 months. Again, local guy, knows what it means to be part of Indiana basketball. Knows kind of that tradition of being the local kid to come through the program. Biggest thing with him is just still very raw in terms of his overall skill set, has a lot of athleticism. A guy who I think a lot of people are reminded of Jordan Geronimo or like an OG Anunoby when they look at him, kind of a 6'8" wing, super, super raw in terms of his offensive skill set. Defensively, he's there, and athleticism is there. So it's just about him getting more reps, playing more. And this summer, he was very, very promising when he went up against some of the bigger guys. And then this morning ended up getting an offer from Iowa. So a lot of the big-time schools are starting to jump in on this recruitment. Indiana, if they keep pushing, I think it's going to be hard to get him away from Bloomington. But again, they have to keep pushing for him because he's going to have a lot of options by the end of his recruitment.
And Xavier Booker, of course, at Cathedral, another big-time recruit Indiana's chasing, with a lot of upside on him.
Yep, absolutely. And his visit went extremely well as well. The biggest thing that we talked about before the visit was really how Mike Woodson is starting to use these big men, give more freedom, and that's the biggest kind of takeaway that talking to some people after that visit that they saw from talking to Mike Woodson. Again, super, super skilled. Biggest thing with him is the motor, the consistency. And I think playing for a coach like Mike Woodson, who knows the skill level that it takes to get to the next level, but also knows the hard work that it takes, that's something that I think we're going to really see what Xavier Booker kind of wants to morph into, because if he can connect the dots with that motor and that consistency, he's going to be a phenomenal college player and go on to the next level. But obviously, those are big parts that you have to be able to connect. You can have all the skill in the world. Obviously, we've seen that with multiple guys who've come through the college ranks, but if they're not able to put it together with that consistent work ethic, then they don't make it at the next level. And that's the biggest thing with Mike Woodson that I think he can bring to him.
Yeah, we talked about J.Q. Roberts. Real quick to go back. He just tweeted out that he also just received an offer from the Iowa Hawkeyes. Iowa, once again, they've made a habit of really trying to come to Indiana and recruit guys. They've had some success. Jack Nungy was there. He left. He's now at Xavier, I guess. But, yeah, they're always reaching in and out. So you just talked about his upside. And so that just happened. Iowa extended an offer. I think that was earlier this morning. So there's that. Not to interrupt. But also, Ja'Kai Newton, of course, he committed early. We've had him on the show. That's 2 years. Usually they wait for that last year, but he wanted to get it out of the way. He was comfortable. Said he knew they felt it when they were there. When you know, and so good sign for Indiana in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. It was even a bigger sign to him from the South there. Auburn was doing a lot of work there. Obviously, you have kind of the George Bowl there with Tom Crean utilizing those athletic physical guards that he seems to always get every few classes, kind of fitting that mold for what Newton would bring. But the biggest thing now is Indiana's really now going into other states with whether it's Yzir Rosemond in Atlanta and in Georgia getting Caleb Banks and now Ja'Kai Newton in back-to-back classes, or if it's Kenya Hunter, right, anywhere on the East Coast, you can pretty much throw a dart and he's going to be able to, whether or not they land the kid, be in the last one or two teams that are standing in those recruitments. And then Dane Fife, obviously, really, really kind of bringing that stronghold in the Midwest. So you just look at what this entire staff has been able to do, and I think it's more of an exciting part than just landing Ja'Kai Newton, which is going to be great. But the fact that they were able to go in out of state to a region that typically doesn't see kids leave the SEC and bring him to Big Ten, which again is known more for just that physical style of play than it is more of that athletic style of play that you see with a lot of those SEC basketball programs. So I think that's the bigger message that staff is sending to now everyone around the country is doesn't matter, where this kid is. We're going to go into your state and we're most likely going to be able to take him out of your state if all things fall.
Or your country, as we've seen Dane Fife go to Finland to look at a player. So that's something that we haven't seen a lot out of from Indiana, well, ever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, again, the biggest thing with Mike Woodson, he wants to bring in the best guys at every single position, no matter where they are. and he wants to be able to build a team that has 13 guys that he feels pretty comfortable putting out on the floor, not really losing a beat. And you saw that with kind of how he morphed this roster this offseason, bringing in a lot of competition at the point guard position, bringing in a lot of competition on the wings, because in order to win at the Big Ten level, but especially the Division I level, you need a lot of really, really talented players from 1 to 13 on your roster, and you can't settle with just 6 or 7 guys. So that's the biggest thing. And Miro Littles is kind of that other guy that you just mentioned in Finland, guy who's really starting to kind of see his recruitment pick up. He actually had a triple-double in his season opener when Dane Fife was over there. So definitely put on a show when Indiana was out there watching.
Yeah. And then Sean says Indiana needs $3 million in NIL money and just go get Arch Manning. That was for football. Not a dreamer, but he'd like a quarterback. Yeah. If you had $3 million in NIL money, you can get about anybody you want. What else is going on? Oh, yeah, the secret scrimmage. Don't tell anybody. The secret scrimmage tomorrow in Louisville's Yum Center at 1:00 versus Belmont, but don't tell anybody. Happens tomorrow, I assume. They had to cancel the other one, and because the bodies not having enough bodies available. But this one's pretty important for, I would think, for the staff to see exactly kind of where they are against new faces with no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone was pretty excited about the Cincinnati matchup. Obviously, 2 new coaches kind of bringing the fan bases back up to what they should be, with obviously Wes Miller out in Cincinnati. Obviously, that was not able to happen just due to kind of those lingering injuries that we saw even dating back to Hoosier Hysteria, not being able to scrimmage there. But everything, as of today or yesterday, is on for this weekend with Belmont. So I think it's definitely a good step for Mike Woodson and kind of what he wants to see out of this roster. What he wants to see out of, I think the biggest thing is the backcourt. Talked a lot about what he wants to do with Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson. I think everyone has faith that they're going to be able to put up those numbers that they want. Biggest question is what is that backcourt going to be able to do? We saw Parker Stewart struggle a little bit down in the Bahamas with his ability to knock down shots. Definitely showed his ability to do that, though, in Hoosier Hysteria. So I think just getting him more game time reps and getting him more included in the offense in different ways. Obviously, we've got guys like Christian Lander and Rob Finney, who I think a lot of people are really excited to see this year in a new offense, kind of a fresh offense, and just a lot of the new faces that are still really trying to kind of fit in the best way possible, just due to the fact that there really has not been a lot of true, practice scrimmage time, just because of those lingering injuries that have happened. So, I mean, the chemistry is there off the floor. That's not an issue, but now it's just finding how those pieces really mesh on the floor. And Belmont's a really strong team to do that against, a well-coached team and a team that always, competes at the highest level and is definitely not afraid to go into any kind of high major battle and put on a good show. Tim
asked about Gabe Cupps and Mr. Fears.
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt. We've got to go.
All right. Any quick update on them?
Biggest thing with Jeremy Fears, I think he's dropped a little bit on that radar. Gabe Cupps is still up at the very, very top of that 2023 class, and I think you're gonna see Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio State fighting that one out.
All right, brother. Appreciate you so much, Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Make sure you give him a follow at Al Lasley. Appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate it, guys.
We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat right after this, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda. It's tough enough to wear pink for them. Get out there and get more to your door at andymoorehonda.com.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Hey, we all need insurance.
Boom, baby. Love it.
Same deal yesterday. Once we get going, I'll mute your microphone.
Do I need to intro this?
Nope, it's just like the one from yesterday.
Except I'm wearing something different. I have no idea what I'm wearing.
Yeah, it's AC/DC Back in Black.
Oh, man. Damn, look how bad I look and still.
There we go.
Yeah, YouTubers, this is a recorded interview.
Hey, we're still bringing it to him, though. No one else has seen it because it's not been.
Oh, I know. I'm
released yet
just
on
letting
YouTube.
them know. I'm just letting them know.
Excuse me.
Ooh, it's hot in here, man.
And I checked with Jeffrey the Greek. He
You good to go?
he didn't realize it was in a different email.
Cool. How long does this go?
This will take us to about 9:59, so we'll be like right on time, I guess. Still.
Perfect.
More Honda of Bloomington has the deals for you. How about a brand new 2021 or 2022 Honda Pilot? All the trims for 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Or how about a brand new 2021 Honda Passport? Also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. We are here with our good man, JQ Roberts. And I'm calling him JQ because I don't want to make an attempt on your first name without hearing it first, JQ. So I get to hear it once at least. How do you enunciate your name?
It's pronounced Jaqueline.
Oh, it's easy.
So, a little bit. So like people think it's Jacqueline at first, but then like once they hear it the
that's
first
why
time.
I asked, because I'm like, there's probably 3 different ways you could go, and I'm like, that's easy, Jaqueline.
Yes, sir.
Cool name, JQ. Well, welcome aboard, JQ.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime. Appreciate you coming on. How was your summer?
My summer was great. I had my first year with, of course, Indiana Elite, and it was my first time playing my grade in a while. I've been playing with Team Blaze Select since I was like way younger, so just playing with my grade for the first time in a while. It just was pretty good.
Were you playing up a level before? Is that what you're saying?
I was playing up one level. So I was playing with 2022 for a while, and then I decided to play 2023 for my summer season off of my sophomore season. So we did pretty good this season. Went 44-1. Fortunately, we lost the last game of the season, the championship. But other than that, we did pretty good. Had a couple highlights and stuff throughout that, but I really had a lot of fun with them.
Man, that's like a New York Yankees streak or something. 44-1. Man.
44-1.
But other than that, you got your own season coming up soon. High school basketball around the corner. We're about to hit November. So you're looking forward, of course, I'm sure, to that.
Yes, sir. I'm really looking forward to it. Everybody's excited for the season to come up. Just making sure I stay focused on that with these coming weeks when we have tryouts, making sure everybody's locked in, ready to go when we start. So just preparing is the biggest thing these upcoming weeks, just making sure we're 100% ready for the season to start.
And I know it keeps you busy year round. We were talking about that off air, that most sports are now just year round because of whatever, AAU and travel and this, that, and the other thing. And then now you're coming back to you're finishing the other legs of everything else and still doing your personal training before you go to start their high school season. How much personal training do you do?
I do a lot. I make sure I do like maybe 2 hours, an hour and a half before school starts, just so I can get that out of the way. It gives me extra time to work on that. And then, of course, we do some stuff for Bloomington North. So those open gyms, it'll be alternating, usually Wednesday and Friday. So we'll be having those. And then I usually go to Teamwork Bloomington to get my weight training in. And then I'll have individual workouts with Coach DC at Twin Lakes. So we're just mixing that around throughout the week. I kind of alternate it so that I don't have 2 weight trainings and 2 individuals on the same day and same week.
Now, on those open gyms, who can come play in there? Anybody?
Anybody. Typically, it's usually, of course, the high school and then incoming freshmen. Sometimes we split the gym just depending on how many people we have there. But anybody who's planning on attending Bloomington High School North can show up.
Oh, that cuts it. I thought I may have had some eligibility left, but no chance there. Have you enjoyed the recruiting process thus far? I mean, because I know sometimes it can get just too hectic and too crazy.
I really enjoyed it, especially throughout the summer. Just going out there, seeing different colleges, the campuses, seeing the people there, the coaching staff, just seeing how great everything is. Of course, it's a little difficult with school going on, because the schedules kind of conflict a little bit, especially with having training and school at the same time. So just managing that, my mom really helps me out with that as far as planning and making sure I get all my homework done and all that stuff. So, but it's been really great.
Yeah, well, and I'll be honest with you. I know that is a lot to juggle right there. That's a lot of bowling balls up in the air because you're thinking about school, just think about school period, going back to school. And now you've got the work and this, and then you got the workouts. It's a lot to juggle. And especially it takes a mature person. I think kids are more, I shouldn't say kids, but teenagers are more mature than they were when my age, because I don't think I could handle all that. So now you've had offers from several schools: Cincinnati, Xavier, Indiana, of course, Indiana, right here in Bloomington. What stands out for Indiana?
Just the feel to it, the coaching staff, having Coach Woods and all those new coaches in the coaching staff. Got to speak with them many times during open gyms, during visits, and just having those conversations with them. Them telling me what their plan is in the future as far as IU and what they see in me in my future. Just having those conversations really makes them stand out as far as that family aspect. Of course, being in Bloomington, my mom used to go to IU. She graduated, and my sister is currently enrolled into the school. She's a sophomore this year. So just that family aspect really stands out as far as Indiana. But overall, it's a really good school.
And speaking of Bloomington North, there's a legacy of players that have come out of Bloomington North, that some have played for IU, but some have gone on other places. But it just they've got their fair share of greats that have come out of that school. How's it feel to be a part of that? I mean, because you're going to be included in that.
It's really exciting, just because as you know, a lot of people have said that there hasn't really been many IU basketball players coming out of Bloomington North. I can't remember who the last one was that came out of Bloomington North, but it's been a while. So just being in that conversation, do you know?
Well, it wasn't Jared Jeffries, but I think it might have been a walk-on. So I'll have to research that. But you stumped me, man. That's fun. But Jared Jeffries is definitely one that came out back after the 2002 Final Four run. But and I could think of some before, but yeah, I'll have to dig that up. But I'm sure that there might have been a walk-on, but it's plus when you're that close to school to the university, it's not always going to be able to produce that. South has had their share. Jordan Hulls of one of those as well. But just being one of those Bloomington basketball rats, it just seems like that's just being kind of cool in itself.
It's really exciting. Anthony Leo is one of them. Just being in the gym with him a couple of times. So sometimes we have open runs. I'd be playing against him, especially during the basketball season. We played against him once. And so just playing against him and then being in that conversation with him is really exciting. Pushes me to work harder and overall just exciting.
What do you guys talk about when are you asking him, hey, what's this like, what's that like, or what are you trying to learn?
Just being a better basketball player, being a better me. I always say that, being a better me, making sure I do the best that I can, the best to my abilities. And of course, he's a D1 basketball player, so he's kind of like a mentor to me. Just making sure I'm like going the right direction as far as playing wise, as far as nutrition. Nutrition is a big thing that I'm focusing on this year. Making sure like I eat the right things, weight training, making sure I'm lifting the right way, not putting my body in like risk throughout the game. So just having that mentorship from the players, from my mom. My mom's seeing like a lot of players come and go, so just having her around and those players really helps.
Well, I can tell you already that I know you already know this, but you are very, very fortunate because mom is very, very wise. And the nutrition aspect, back even basketball players at IU back in the day, they would go to fast food places, and it has changed so much that the meals prepared to help you guys have the best bodies you can to produce the best that you can as well. But how have you got to spend any time with any of the other guys on the Indiana team? Talk to them. What have you learned? What do you hear?
Not so much as hung out with them. Like I've seen them a couple of times throughout visits, but other than that, I've really been focused on the basketball season coming up. But throughout the season, they may come to like a few games. We kind of have a little bit of chemistry with some of the players, but as far as talking with them a lot, I don't really do that just because of my schedule and how busy it is. But I'm really looking forward to having conversations with them as well.
And getting to looking at the schools that you have offers from. The bigger ones are Xavier, Cincinnati, of course, Indiana. They're all at least regional. Are you looking to stay at least in the region?
Not so much as region. For me, a really big thing is just the connection with the right. Team, with the coaches. I want to go someplace where I'll be loved and appreciated, and I'll have a fit on the team. So like whichever school has like that best availability is to choose like this school that I'll pick. But so it's not much as like location. It's just that fit that I'd be in.
It's a great way to look at that. And then your game itself. How, if you talk to Anthony, is he giving you tips on how to work on your game? I think you mentioned. Anybody else that you lean on? I know you have your trainer, DC as well. Anybody else that you look to for that type of advice?
Mostly just them. I've been with DC in the summer. We've been really working on my shot. So that's one of the biggest things that we've been working on as far as my game, making sure that stays consistent and just like overall athleticism, trying to get my vertical up. So at Teamwork Bloomington, I'll work out with Rod Root and the rest of the staff. And so we'll be doing like leg workouts, like split squats, all that stuff to further achieve my game.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, man, you'll be running in the sand soon and doing all kinds of crazy things. But yeah, the workouts, again, everything has changed so much. You mentioned the coaches earlier and getting to talk to them. What about them? Coach Woodson, let's take him for example. What's it like talking to him? What bits of wisdom has he imparted upon you?
So Coach Woodson is very honest whenever he talks to me. He tells me the things that I'm doing good, but he also tells me the things I need to work on. So shooting was one of the things that he told me to work on, and I've taken that to heart. I've really pushed myself to further my game, and gotten in the gym a lot. But, just that honesty, like really helps like me in a way that I can know what else to work on and what to do, and just be the best me. So,
what other coaches have you bonded with, or all of them, or how the conversation's gone with the other three coaches? Because there's probably something different that you get from each one.
Most of them have that honesty part, but I've been talking a lot with Coach Fife, having multiple conversations with him as far as like my season. We've talked a lot about the North season and what he's looking for in the season, and just that leadership role. It's really going to be big this season, and just making sure everybody, all the guys, are putting 100% effort. So that's one of the main things, not as far as like my future at IU, but what I could do right now.
What does leadership mean to you?
So coming in as a junior, one of the high classes in the school. I have a huge role that I have to play. The previous years, we've gone pretty far in the sectional. We haven't quite made it far in the championship. We've lost the championship last year. So this year, we really have big things ahead of us. And we have big dreams. Everybody has the same goal in mind, trying to get as far as we can, potentially winning the state title. People might say it's a far goal, but I really think everybody can come together and we can reach that goal. So just having that goal in mind, coming in during open gyms, everybody's putting 100% effort, and just having that goal really pushes us in a way that nobody else can do.
If it was easy, everybody could do it, right?
Yes, sir.
Other changes that have come along, NIL is probably the biggest that for us to talk about. There's different rule changes, but NIL now, I know that's something that is in the back of your head, even though that you're 2 years away from that. That's something that. What have you done research into it? How much have you looked into NIL and all that?
I've looked into a little bit, mostly off of social media, just looking at that, people posting, sponsorships and all that stuff. But for me, it's mostly just trying to just work hard as possible. We're not really looking at the NIL yet. We're just trying to focus on the season and all that. But it's really gonna change and impact people's future. So it's probably going to be something that we look at in the future.
Absolutely. And what are you going to study? I mean, you already sound like you're smarter than me, the producer, and the audience put together. What's your field of study?
I might do something around physical therapy or just like nutrition, because one day the ball is going to stop bouncing. So I want to be as close to basketball as long as possible. So I feel like if I study in that area, I can stay close to it for as long as possible.
Absolutely. And then are there teams now? I know you're in Bloomington, and so IU is here. Have you followed them growing up? Is that or do you? Because a lot of times people just get hooked on different teams for different reasons. Their dad liked a different team, or they moved there. Did you, growing up watching college basketball, who did you tend to watch mostly?
Being in Bloomington, of course, I watched IU. My mom being an alum, she take me to the games, but she made a good job of keeping me neutral growing up.
Wow.
So I wouldn't pick any favorites.
We need to have Mom on here too, man. We can't just say Mom did. We need to get Mom on here and get her own little piece on here, and so she can be recognized, man. But she's done a heck of a job. Please tell her I said that.
Yeah, she's done a great job. And
I interrupted you, so I apologize.
Oh, you're completely fine. But yeah, she kept me neutral growing up, so not picking any favorites, and just making sure I look at the college as a whole, and making sure I don't skip through anything, and making sure I just go through the recruiting process.
How much trouble do you think you're going to have teaching people to say your name? Because I think it's easy once you tell me. Or do you prefer JQ? Because I like the brevity, the shortness.
So a funny story. Every year for school, whenever you get those new teachers and she's going through the seating chart, it's kind of hard to tell my real name. So I'll tell them.
You're good.
So I'll tell them JQ just for short. So most of them will say Jacqueline, but of course it's Jaqueline. So like I know that like it's hard to pronounce the first time. So I'm a little lenient.
It really
now.
isn't. It's easy as pie to me. I think people in the South would really say it. I think they'd say it like that no matter what, because that's how I think the Southern dialects, I have relatives there, is really heavy on the second syllable a lot. So they'd have your name down pat, man.
It's the first time hearing it. So like I'll usually say you can call me JQ. I usually go by JQ.
What do you do for fun? Now that you got a couple years of high school left, but because basketball takes up a lot of time. It's like a second job, school and the basketball, because we talked about it being year round, and you have to be dedicated to that if you're wanting to continue to go forward at whatever level, which obviously you do. What do you do for fun, and how do you find that time?
For fun, I usually read. Most people don't think I read, but I do. I try to stay off games.
So they don't think you read, or they don't think you can read? I'm just kidding.
But yeah, people think I don't usually read, but I'm a reader. Usually before bed, I'll read a couple pages.
What do you like to read?
So I was gifted the Kobe book by my grandma. So
Wow.
I need to finish that up. And then last year I read a Michael Jordan book. I don't know the title specifically, but I picked it up at my school library, and so I read that. But now I'm on the Kobe book, and I'm not finished with it yet, but I'll finish it soon.
How have you enjoyed it? Have you like a lot to take out of that?
Yes, sir. It's been great. Just as far as like mentality and preparation, just getting that mindset really, and it's really been good.
Well, man, I hope you're having fun. I hope you continue to have fun, and I can't thank you enough for taking a few minutes out to join us here today on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and we'll be keeping up with the season. We're going to have you back on, and hopefully you're just going to be winning, and I know that you guys will be leading the charge, but thank you so much, man. We appreciate you, JQ.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
You bet. JQ Roberts from Bloomington North. He's an Indiana target, and we'll talk to when we come back.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
If you're in the market for a new Honda, Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington has the deals for you. How about a brand new 2021 or 2022 Honda Pilot? All the trims for 0%.
Zach said he needs to be out by 10:15.
Not a problem. That was a pretty decent interview. JQ's pretty good.
It was. He was good.
Very well spoken, man.
Morning, Zach.
Hey.
Hey, brother, how you doing, man?
Hey, how we doing?
Pretty good. We'll get you out by 10:15, no problem.
Okay, thanks. I just got to grab a shower before
you got to take off?
Yeah. So.
First thing, probably, Zach, I'll have to mention Bob Knight being in practice yesterday just because.
Sure.
Tidbit. Nothing more to it, but just to say it. It was a pretty cool picture, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was expected. I think everybody's thought it was going to happen, more often. With Woodson back. So,
all right, here we go. More. Psalm's Place in Broad Ripple has wings, tender steaks, and seafood. Psalm's Ale House in Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Psalm's Clubhouse. Psalm's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
This segment is brought to you by Yogi's Bar and Grill. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat coming to you here on this Friday. Getting ready for the weekend. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins us now. Zach, how are you doing, brother?
Hey, how we doing?
Doing fine. Getting ready. I'm sure you're getting ready to head out to Maryland at College Station for that drive as the Indiana Hoosiers take on the Terrapins this weekend.
Yeah. Forgive me. I'm a little hoarse. I'm getting over a sinus infection. So
No fun. No
even
fun.
went out and got my test or whatever to make double sure that it was sinus infection. But after double dosing Zyrtec all of 2020 just to make sure that I didn't get sick, I got a little lax on it this time. And I grew up in the pollen capital of the known universe and had never had a sinus infection until I moved to Indiana. So thank you, Ohio River Valley. I get these once or twice a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick note yesterday, of course, Bob Knight visits Indiana basketball practice with Coach Whitson. Just kind of a cool thing to see after all the years of what has gone on. But nice to see him out there and see that being kind of brought together again.
Yeah, I mean, as ever, I think the people that, and I said this the day that the day he came back in 2020, and I think it still rings true. I think the people you feel best for are players who probably for a long time felt that their loyalties were a little bit divided, that by supporting their alma mater, they might be angering their head coach or vice versa. And they don't, I think Todd Leary told our reporter Dana Benbow for a story around them that we don't have to choose anymore. And I think that there's some harmony there. And as much as this sort of thing matters to fans, and I think you can find a lot of different opinions within IU's fan base on Bob Knight. I don't think the fan base thinks with anything close to resembling one mind on the topic of Bob Knight. As much as it matters to fans, as much as it matters to, sort of a harmonious forward progress of the program, I think that's good too. But, I think the other part of it too is maybe don't make too much out of it. Bob Knight's really important to Mike Woodson. He's said it many, many times. And, it means a lot to have him there. I mean, I think about when Tom Crean would have Ralph Willard stop by his practices. And I know Ralph Willard was nowhere near as successful, obviously, as Bob Knight, but you got the same sense of satisfaction from Tom Crean being able to show a man who had been his mentor, who had given him multiple opportunities in the game and been someone that Tom really referred to as one of the most influential figures in his coaching career. The opportunity to kind of show him, think of the pride you'd feel in saying, hey, you gave me my shot. Now look where I am. Look what I've done. Look what I've built. And I think there's also an element too of, don't overthink it. This is also Mike Woodson just being able to show the man who gave him his chance, where he is and what he's done.
I mean, Bob Knight himself, actually, if you think back now, he did the same thing. It was Claire B. or his was Fred Taylor from Ohio State.
Taylor, yeah.
Even Woody Hayes. I mean, he looked up to these great coaches, and he was friends with guys like Bill Parcells and even oh my gosh, how am I drawing a blank on the trainer's name, the horse trainer's name that won all the Kentucky Derbies. He was always around greatness, if you think about it.
Yeah, and again, just think how you'd feel, I mean, I was a statistician and manager for my high school basketball team. It was a way to get out of wrestling in the winter because I played football and my line coach was a wrestling coach and he made you wrestle if you weren't doing anything else. And I did not want to wrestle for Coach McEwen. God bless him. So
I wrestled one year. I hear your pain, brother.
It was a way to say, nope, sorry, coach, I've got something else to do in the winter months. But it was something I really enjoyed and relative to where my high school had been historically, we were pretty good. And I have stayed in touch with my, my high school coach, and every once in a while I'll bounce an idea off him or ask him, kind of to walk me through something maybe I don't understand. And I put a bug in his ear because he's retired now, but he's refereeing games down in and around Noon in Georgia, which is not far from Fayetteville, where Caleb Banks plays. And so I put a bug in his ear to keep an eye out for Caleb Banks, this winter, and let me know if he sees him and what he thinks. And, it's just like that. Those interactions are a lot of fun for me, to go back to Coach Carroll and talk basketball more as peers. He used to be the one with all the knowledge and all the stories, and he's probably still got more knowledge. I'm guessing I have a few more stories these days, but my point is just imagine how you'd feel, if someone you regarded as and then that's why I said, like, at one level too, don't overcomplicate it. Like it's also just
let it be what it is.
Mike Woodson has an enormous amount of understandable affection for Bob Knight, and now he gets to sit next to Bob Knight at practice, two men with great careers in basketball. I mean, and Knight overshadows a lot of people, obviously, but Mike Woodson's been head coach of the Knicks, man. I mean, he played 11 years in the NBA. Like, how many people don't play 5 years in the NBA? Right. So my point is, like you said, let it be what it is too. This is just Mike Woodson. That is a moment, I think, of real satisfaction for him, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's even better than than your parents. I mean, because you've worked for something, and to see that come to fruition, absolutely. The Indiana football team heading off to a College Park this weekend, and it's a must-win game for Indiana. I know that they have one more game that they could lose, but you cannot look at it that way. Every game is a must-win, especially when you have to go to Michigan yet, and you have to go to Purdue yet. So they're all and Maryland needs this game because their schedule gets tougher on the back end. They play 3 ranked teams out of the Big Ten East, so it's a must-win game for both teams. They're going in it differently. Indiana is unsettled at quarterback. Maryland has settled at quarterback, but they've got some other injury problems. So this is going to be a mismatch kind of a game.
I mean, it is a must-win for Indiana, and it's a must-win both in the sense of, the physical sense. Indiana just can't afford to lose many more games. I mean, one more loss is 6 losses, and I know you can get to bowl games at 5 and 7, but there are way too many contingencies and layers to that. And even then, I think teams that go to the bowls at 5 and 7 probably just still feel a real lack of satisfaction from the season as a whole. But I think it's also the more sort of fundamental point on performances and capabilities that you make, which is they've still got to win. Even if they win this weekend, they've still got to win at least one of at Michigan or at Purdue. And it's hard to imagine that if you can't win at Maryland, you can win either of those games. And, it's a little bit kind of Indiana going back to the old calculus of, well, listen, let's just chalk off the Big Four in the East, just live with that, do the best we can in the non-conference, and then win all of our other non-Big Four games. And that's obviously been difficult this year. They had a non-conference game that was a lot tougher than they would have expected when they scheduled it. They had to open at Iowa, which of course looks difficult, justifiably difficult now. But if you can win this game and then, get through Michigan win or loss relatively unscathed, then you're presented with a finishing stretch of Rutgers at home, Minnesota at home, and at Purdue. And I think you have a reasonable case for being able to win all those games, but you've got to do this first. This is kind of the game that says you can win all of those games. And it is a little bit reminiscent, frankly, of the Maryland game in 2019. Obviously different circumstances, and Indiana's not going to finish this season 8-4. But if you remember that season, Indiana had gone to Michigan State. They lost a game they probably should have won and kind of threw away with 2 or 3 bad mistakes. And, we were kind of back in that mode of thinking, okay, well, where, are they just trying to get the math to add up to 6 and just that's it, and that's all. And then they went and they won that game, and they won it without playing perfectly, and they won it with a quarterback change because Michael Penix wound up in concussion protocol. But the way they won it sort of gave them a level of confidence. And then the next week they came home and they walloped Rutgers, and then they went to Nebraska. And when they beat Nebraska at Nebraska, that's when they got to 6 wins. this game, I think, could have a little bit of that impact because I think we can all acknowledge that Indiana's probably not going to win at Michigan. But in the interim, if you can win this game, especially given what you talk about, questions at quarterback, issues on offense, etc., if you can win this game, then you can start to kind of tell yourself a story of, well, listen, that was exceptionally difficult, and we've still got one more tough game to go, but we're still better than the bottom half of the league. We can still hold serve there, and that means we can still get to 6-6, and we could still do something like the Pinstripe Bowl. And no, it wouldn't be the season we'd hoped for, but it would still be a bowl game. It would still be a win over Purdue. It would still be kind of this idea that like the worst that can happen has, and we're still a bowl team. Because the reality is, I know a lot of people have said, well, a lot of fans will say, we just want Indiana to be the Northwestern of the East. Well, that's fair, but go look, Northwestern has a losing season about once every 4. Yep. Like Northwestern throws in a 3-9 or a 4-8. It's
like
Northwestern
this season
every single year. So there are going to be seasons like this where there are hiccups. But I think that if you're going to recover it, both from a flat wins and losses standpoint, and then also maybe kind of the intangible sort of, are we still masters of our own fate sense? If that's going to happen, it's got to happen now.
I agree. And unfortunately, they're going to have to do it with a walk-on quarterback mostly. And I'm sure we'll see McCulley in there as well. I don't know. We don't know how they're going to run that, but we'll find out. But I know you got to get on the road so you can head that way and doing that. So we thank you for taking time out today. It's going to be an interesting game to see, I guess, with Indiana and that offense and how they run it. I'm assuming Grant Grimmel will start, but I don't know. And it could be McCulley. I'm not sure what they're going to do. They purposely, they don't want Maryland to know until the game time. And I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting to see. I'm guessing what would probably be ideal is if you do go with kind of a rotation at the beginning. If you're Tom Allen, I'm guessing what would be ideal is that somewhere along the way, one of those two kind of seizes control, and one of those two kind of makes you say, okay, he's the one we're going to go with. He's the one we're going to stick with, whether that's McCulley. And if it's not McCulley, I don't think that dooms the rest of his career. I think it's just a reminder that he's a freshman who's been in college for 5 months. But, I do think that probably, especially if the Tuttle and Penix injuries are both, longer term than just this weekend, maybe just this weekend and next weekend, I think it probably, if you're Indiana, you would prefer that one of those two is able to do enough to kind of make you say, okay, he gets it. He's, he's the number one. And if we need to sprinkle some change of pace, then we can, but we start there and then we work forward, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Zach, I can't thank you enough, man. Get out of here and get on the road because you got to head to College Park. It was College Station, right? No, College Park.
College Park. Same idea.
There's too many names. We appreciate you, Brad, very much. Have a safe trip, Zach. We look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow if you don't. I'm sure you already do, but joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Plenty more coming up. We'll be back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration, perfect out time. Boom, look at Jeffrey Boom popping right in like magic.
What's up, Mr. Greek?
How are you, brother? Nice to meet you. Jim Coyle, how are you, sir?
Awesome. Great to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I love it. When did you play for Iowa?
Many moons ago, 96 to 2000.
Oh, I was already out of college. Don't worry.
Nice.
I'm trying to think of Indiana guy. Oh, no, that wasn't. I'm trying to think who the Indiana guys were during that run. Was that Randall L?
Yeah, I played defense. Yeah, so we tried to game plan versus Randall L.
Oh man,
that guy was frightening.
He was funny. But, and I tell the story all the time. There's a guy who was a coach at the time, but I see Indiana coach, when he was recruiting at Randall L., he saw Allen Iverson play.
Yeah.
He said he was possibly the greatest dual threat quarterback that he ever saw play.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah. And then is Bill Ennis-Inge? He's still on the Hoosier staff, isn't he?
No, he went to Kansas, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. So Bill was older than me, but I played football with him at Iowa.
Was he was receivers coach, wasn't he?
When before he left Indiana, he was the special teams coordinator.
Special teams.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
He was a good dude.
Right.
Really nice guy.
Wait a minute. He didn't leave and go to South Alabama?
No, that's Kane Womack.
I know, but I thought he may have gone with him.
Maybe that happened after the fact, but he left before Kane Womack left.
Okay.
He did? No, I didn't remember. I thought they may have left Central. All right.
Because I think KCT Garden's first year, I could be wrong about this.
Last year was KCT Garden's first year as special.
Yeah, then that would have been the case.
Right. Yep.
Oh, here we go.
So are we gonna kind of start with a lot of Hoosier stuff and then a little general bit?
Yeah, we'll just
have
talk about
20
Indiana.
minutes just to
Cool.
give a time frame.
Hey man, with the games we have on slate this weekend, I can definitely talk 20 minutes.
Oh. There's some incredible Big Ten games. Important.
There is.
I mean,
all right, I'm gonna go ahead and bring us back in from break.
2021 or 2022 Honda Pilot, all the trims for 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Or how about a brand new 2021 Honda Passport, also 0% APR financing over 48 months and $0 down. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Hope you're getting ready for the weekend. Joined now by Jeffrey the Greek. If you don't know him, he's a former Iowa player, but just covers Big Ten sports out west of us. I wish I was out west. I was at Iowa earlier this year. Great environment. I knew it was going to be. I had not been there for a football game, but had been gone to Nebraska. I knew it was going to be been at Notre Dame. I knew it was going to be very similar. There are just places, and Iowa is one of those where they just love their football, always have. They've always had a good product, but it's a great environment. When the opposition fans come there, you're going to enjoy yourself, at least until you lose. But up until that point, you're going to have fun because they're great environments, and Iowa's one. Thanks a lot for joining us, Jeff.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We were talking earlier off air, and he played back in the 96 through 2000 era. And I was trying to think, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was the Randall L era. And he brought back some memories for you.
Some haunting memories. Not that. So as I joke on the podcast, I practiced a lot more than I played at Iowa, but I do remember prepping as a defender for Antoine Randall L. And back then, a dual threat quarterback like that was something we'd never seen before. So defensive coaches had not quite adjusted yet to defending guys like that, and he was special.
Absolutely. Enjoyed watching him. The Big Ten this weekend, an unbelievable slate of games of importance. Obviously, we'll talk about Indiana and that. But as I look across just the 7 games that are scheduled, this is it's the first defining week for the Big Ten East, I believe, because you've got Penn State and Ohio State and Michigan State. So there it's kind of like the semifinals. It's almost like a semifinals tournament to see who's going to step up on that. Ohio State's at home to Penn State and Michigan State is at home to Michigan. So those are 2 gigantic games in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I put a updated prediction out on Twitter yesterday, and on what I think the standings are going to finish at the end of the year. Ohio State fans don't like what I have predicted. They've been torching me all last night and into today. I think Michigan will win this weekend versus Michigan State. And if you look at their schedule from there on out, I mean, I'm not just giving them wins. This is college football, but they have a very realistic path to being 11-0 going into the game. But it all starts this weekend. I mean, they've got to get past Michigan State first, and that's just one of the games that are intriguing for the Big Ten. Now, I'm a homer. Every one of these Big Ten games is intriguing to me, but I would think you would put Michigan State at the top.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've seen Michigan State play since they played Indiana, and I'm like, okay, Indiana, if they had a half-competent offense, would have won that game because defensively they were shut down. I haven't really watched Michigan play that much, but just from what I've gleaned from them, they sound like the better team. And having seen Michigan State, I absolutely agree. I think the Wolverines win that game. And, man, if they do, that's really going to does that add up more pressure for Harbaugh going into that game if he's undefeated going to that Ohio State game since he's not beaten them yet?
I think it takes a little off. I get the feeling that Michigan feels like they're playing with house money right now, or they kind of have all year. So if they can get that, ugly monkey off their back with Michigan State, with them losing to Mel Tucker last year, I think it just opens it up for the rest of the year. And I just want to make sure I say this, like you mentioned the Indiana-Michigan State game, the Indiana defense did everything they could to muck that up and keep the Hoosiers in it. And I want to make a point, since I know this is a pro Hoosier, audience. I swear I was about the only one that wasn't a Hoosier or Cincinnati fan that watched that Indiana-Cincinnati game. And Indiana was beating the brakes off that Cincinnati team. And I'm still mad at that game. I still think Indiana was the better team coming out of that game. Now they made some mistakes on their own that they have to own up, but a lot of times a season can come down to a game, a series. This season and that game came down to one play, which is when McFadden got thrown out for an absolute BS call. It completely changed that game, perhaps the season for Indiana. I'm not a Hoosier fan. Even I'm still upset about that.
Just rip the scab right off, man. Just rip the scab right off.
There. I at least wanted to show my support.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it did suck to see that, what it did and how it just, the air went out of there. But the other big game, of course, Penn State travels to Ohio State, and the odds that I'm looking at, this cannot be right. They're saying it's an 18.5 point game. That's not right, correct?
That's right. You saw some open up at 14.5, and that thing screamed up to 17.5 right after that, and then it's gone up another point.
Is Sean Clifford out?
Well, I think he's in, but he might as well be out if it's the hobbled Sean Clifford we saw last week versus Illinois, and I think that's what you see represented in that line.
And you look at Penn State, and that kind of makes you think of Indiana as well. You lose the important piece of your puzzle, and man, it starts to crumble quick.
Yeah. I mean, in the age of transfer portal and stuff, you would think there would be more backups. I do think James Franklin and the offensive coaches should get a little bit of blame in the fact that they don't have a backup that seems to be ready. It was pretty obvious in that Illinois game early on that Clifford was not healthy. He was doing everything he could to get the ball out of his hands so he wouldn't take a shot. And it's hurt him. I mean, obviously if you take a quarterback away from any team, as Hoosier fans, I think, can attest to, you're going to limit the offense. And in this case, it has just hurt the whole Penn State team.
Yeah, it absolutely has. Another important game, of course, the Hawkeyes, your Hawkeyes, they travel up north to Wisconsin, and Wisconsin has been kind of a up and down team this year. The odds, let's see, Wisconsin's a 3.5 point favorite. I guess that's basically because of the home team. But Iowa's their defense had looked so good, and their offense is also another that is, they were competent. They have a competent offense. That's the difference between them and Indiana. Great defense, competent offense, and they've been able to get by a lot, but that's not enough to beat the really good teams. Wisconsin's not one of those really good teams. I think that they should be able to beat Wisconsin, even though it's on the road. But that's going to be an interesting game.
A non-Iowa fan calling Iowa's offense competent is about the best compliment we can get at this point. It looked pretty incompetent for most of the game versus Penn State and the entire game versus Purdue. I mean, over-under set at 36.5 for this game.
Unbelievable.
Typically only see that when two Service Academy offenses get together. That's what we got in Madtown on Saturday. I don't know how Iowa's going to move the ball. I'm very curious to see that. Same could be said about Wisconsin, but their rushing attack, they've got a two-headed monster now running back, and it's really come alive the last 2 or 3 weeks. So as of right now, the thing that I feel most confident about for both Iowa and Wisconsin, rushing, passing for both teams is Wisconsin's rushing attack. So I tend to lean towards Wisconsin, but the hope is, as an Iowa fan, that Iowa can get back to doing what they do best, which is turning people over. And Mertz has been more than happy to turn the ball over this year. So that's what it's going to take for Iowa to pull that win out.
Some other non-really important games. Purdue goes to Nebraska. That'll be interesting just for whatever it is. Minnesota goes to Northwestern. Rutgers to Illinois. Well, there's the pillow fight game of the week. And then, of course, Indiana traveling to Maryland. This is a must-win game, absolutely must-win game for Indiana, and pretty close to a must-win game for Maryland, only because their schedule gets a lot tougher. They have to play 3 of the Big Ten East ranked teams, Michigan State, Michigan, and Penn State, I believe, yet, which I don't see them beating any of those 3, unless they get lucky with Penn State. But so both teams need to win this game. Indiana is going to have to do it with a walk-on quarterback probably, I have no idea what this is going to look like, because up till now the offense didn't look that great with their starting quarterbacks. So now that you have a walk-on in there, I don't know the changes they're going to be able to make. Haven't had much of a running game. The offensive line, even though it's a veteran core, been pretty disappointing this season. That's all you can say. And it's just been a very benign offense, without any teeth. Of course, last week we saw Jack Tuttle against Ohio State. Great series, 75 yards. They go down the field, they score a touchdown, and he gets hurt on that play. We don't know how it would have played out after that. Not saying that they would have won, but they looked good. They ran a great scheme all the way down and scored, but that's all poof gone now.
Yeah, as far as this game, when I was at Iowa, I played under a head coach named Hayden Fry, big Texan, and he always used to say, you got want to. Jam, you got want to work out. You got want to come to practice.
Yep.
For Maryland, Indiana, it's going to come down to want to. Like, which team wants this the most? With Maryland, they're known for an explosive offense, but they haven't scored more than 20 points versus an FBS team since week 1. And that was versus West Virginia, when West Virginia turned the ball over 4 times. An interesting thing to watch with Locks in these games is in each game, they go right down the field. He can draw up plays during the week to attack a defense, and he's excellent at it. But somewhere around season or series 2 or 3, the defensive coordinator adjusts, and Locks has had no answer. So that's what I think we will see in this game. Shout out to my podcast, the Eyes on Big podcast. But we do a lock of the week. My lock of the week is actually the under in this game because
really,
because I still have faith in the Indiana defense. I believe they have pride, under their head coach. I still think Maryland is trying to figure out who they are after losing a couple of their studs. But on the other side, Maryland's defense ain't that bad either. And right now it's just difficult for me to see points being put on the board by Indiana with a inexperienced quarterback behind that offensive line. You can have one of the greatest play callers in the world. If you take out the O-line and the quarterback, the offense is going to come to a screeching halt. And I think that's what we've seen, in the last couple of weeks with Indiana.
Yeah, it's just been so, like I mentioned, the offensive line, they're veterans. It was a veteran group coming back. They did lose Harry Kreider, a big loss, but other than that, they got, I think Zach Carpenter came in. So should have been no drop off. And the fact that there's been such a huge drop off has been mesmerizing because they haven't been, and you got Stephen Carr, who is a solid running back, and he's done an okay job. But if I look back at all the stats, the first half, he's pretty good. He's probably up 4, maybe to 5 yards to carry. But by the end of the game comes, that usually drops down to 3 or below.
Right.
And that running game is just disappearing. So so if you're not having a running game, obviously you're probably not getting good pass protection either, which has been the case. So they're going to have to find something they haven't found. And I don't know if that, I don't even know what it's going to entail because it's really difficult to change your offense midstream this late into the season with guys that probably hasn't even run much offense except for scout team offense. So it's going to be a challenge for Indiana, but 49.5 points, that's a lot. So either one of those teams, for those two teams, yes, I probably agree with you on that. What's any locks? What are your locks for the week?
That's one. I tell you what, I like a lot of unders. Minnesota Northwestern, I think that's an under to look at. That's an under 42. I don't know if I would call it a lock, but I mean, I'm getting deep here, but Ohio State's team total points scored, I believe, is 37. I think they can score 40 points getting off the bus right now if they want to. So that's another one to look at. But in general, as soon as the lines come out Monday or whatever, just go to the Big Ten and bet all unders. You would be something like 65, 70% up this year by just blind betting the unders. Indiana and Iowa, and we're not the only teams that have been struggling with O-line and quarterback play. It's pretty much been across the board.
Yeah, and it's really it sucks really because I was looking forward to seeing all those teams be good. It's so fun when they're good. I mean, but opening up at Iowa, that's one thing in the Big Ten I think they have to get away from. And I try to not be a homer. Indiana has really gotten screwed in that case. It's a couple of years ago, they opened up with Ohio State. This year, they opened up with Iowa. They opened up with Ohio State again, I think, in a couple of years. And then they have another opening game in a few more years. This was Iowa's first Big Ten opening opponent since 1979 against Indiana. And I'm like, dude, why would they do that? And that just doesn't help the product, I don't think. You're not
especially coming off the big year last year and wanting to, grab that momentum and going. And then suddenly you looked at Indiana's schedule. They open up on the road in a tough environment, if I could be so bold with Iowa Stadium.
Very tough.
Right. And then you turn around at Cincinnati and you started looking at it and you're like, who's
scheduled that game?
I mean, the best part about Indiana right now is they've already played Iowa, Cincinnati, Michigan State, Ohio State. They've got some of their toughest games in the rearview mirror, which just brings it right back to this game here. Like, I think in order for Tommy Allen to keep some momentum, you at least want to go bowling. You're not going to go to a bowl if you lose this game. It's a big game for the Hoosiers.
It absolutely is, and I'm looking forward to watching that. See anything else? Make sure we get your shout out on your podcast, John. If you got that, to stick it up. If not, we'll make sure we post it up there. But man, I'd love to have you back anytime, Jeff. It's fun. It's just been fun. So I'd love to have you back anytime.
Hey, wake me up in the middle of the night. I'll talk some Big Ten football. Don't
right, brother. Hey, Eyes on Big podcast. Make sure you follow it. Jeffrey the Greek, make sure you give him a follow as well. We appreciate him. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Hey, we'll be back with more. We've got one more guest yet. Scott Green going to talk to us from Iowa as well, or from Maryland. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Whether it's a celebration. Man,
that was class.
All the Iowa stuff. I thought Indiana was playing Iowa again. I'm like, damn it.
That's all right.
That's why.
Hey, brother,
that was. I'm serious. I would love to have you on it anytime you want, man. I could do that every week. That was just fun.
That was a blast. Absolutely. I mean, I am technically on the clock right now. I could typically make Fridays work. I'm in sales, but typically we can do something. So
that would be awesome. Yeah. And anything, if you ever need anything from this way, just let me know.
Dude, love your show.
Appreciate you. Yours as well. Let's put that on. I own Indiana Rivals as well, so
okay,
some cross stuff. So
nice.
Give me a follow on Twitter if you haven't, and I'll do the same if I haven't gotten there.
Yeah,
good, man. Yeah, we'll try to work that out. I'd love that.
All right, have a great rest of your Friday, guys. Good luck tomorrow.
You too, Jeff. Thank you, buddy.
See ya. Bye.
That was awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
That was just freaking fun.
Hey, Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Pretty good, buddy. Scott. Hey, Scott. Jim Coyle, man. Are you working hard? Or are you headed to College Park? Or you're already there, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, here in Maryland, at least.
Yeah. When we, at least it's not like Penn State that has like 3 different daggone names.
Yeah.
Just hard to.
Good old College Park.
The only thing is, there's so many. You got College Park, you got College Station, you got what's Penn State's college? What?
State College.
State College in Happy Valley, and then they've got something. They've got 3 names.
State College and Happy Valley are the only 2 I can think of.
Yeah, somebody told us of a 3rd one. I'm like, oh God, it's hard enough as it is.
Actually, the stadium is technically in a place called University Park.
Yes. University Park, State College, Happy Valley.
Yep.
And it's Beaver Stadium, right? No, not Beaver Stadium.
No, I think that's right. Beaver Stadium. Yep.
And why would they call it Beaver Stadium? Is that a last name of somebody, I guess?
No clue.
See, that is the craziest.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring us back in from break.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
This segment is brought to you by AAA Insurance. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Southern Stone Restaurant.
Welcome back. It is Friday. Jim Coyle here with you as always. Now joined by Scott Green from Terrapin Nation as Indiana heads to College Park to take on the Terrapins tomorrow. Scott, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Jim. How are you doing?
Doing fine. I'm not heading to Maryland this weekend, so that's a good for me. But you will be there. We've got somebody going there. But as I was talking to some other folks just before, this is a must-win game to me for both teams. Even though there's 5 games left, Indiana's schedule allows them only 1 more loss. So with a trip to Michigan ahead, you can't count that, and a trip to Purdue. Maryland, although they have 5 games left, 3 of those games are against the 3 ranked teams of the Big Ten East. So this is one of the 2 that they must win, I think, to go bowling, unless they can upset Penn State, who is kind of hobbling a little bit right now. But I think it's a must-win game for both teams.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. You know, when you look at Maryland, you know, they won those 4 in a row to start the season, and, you know, things were looking great. And then you had the debacle that was Iowa. Not a very pretty loss last week against Minnesota. And, yeah, I think you said it. I mean, you look at Indiana possibly starting a 3rd-string quarterback, you know, coming off a 3-game losing streak themselves. And, yeah, when you look at the schedule, Indiana and Rutgers really kind of look like the only 2 winnable games left. But, I mean, when you say must win, I mean, when we're talking about for Maryland, you know, this is year 3 under Lasley, and this isn't just really must win to make a bowl and you know, kind of salvage this season, but it's almost must win for the Lasley era, because year 3 is kind of that year where you're supposed to take that next step. And, you know, that's what they're trying to do here. And this week is huge for the Terps.
Yeah, fortunately for Indiana, they're not in that case with having had some success in the last couple of years, but that brought expectations for this year, and with good reason. And the failures have been just kind of head scratching because Indiana has an offensive line that was thought to be a veteran group coming back, and they thought that they were set at quarterback. Of course, well, that has been blown to smithereens. Which would kill anybody. I mean, we look at Penn State right now. I was just talking to Jeffrey Greek, and man, you talk about a pretty good team that has disappeared. But most teams at that level usually have a good backup, and Penn State is kind of struggling right there. Indiana was fortunate, but Jack Tuttle gets hurt he drives the first play down the road against Ohio State, looked great, 75-yard drive, touchdown scoring pass, but gets hurt on that play. Now they're down to a walk-on and a guy they expected to redshirt. So that's been kind of thrown into the ringer. And now, so we've got two teams that are kind of at a crossroads this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And like you said, when I look at Maryland, I obviously, like you said, you look at the injuries at quarterback for Indiana. I think the key for Maryland this weekend is going to be they've got to show they can stop the run. Maryland's had a ton of injuries, especially along that linebacker group. So they're really depleted and really thin along, that front seven at linebacker. And I think they're just going to have to show they can stop the run because, we don't know what to expect from Indiana quarterback. And I think they're just going to look at last week's tape and go, we're going to force Maryland to beat us and force us to throw the ball. And if they can't, it could be a long day.
Well, the defense of Indiana has done pretty well this year. They've got a good defense. It doesn't look as good on statistically, I think, because the offense has left them in some pretty tough holes over the season. But defensively, they've been really good. They're banged up, though. Have been banged up on the secondary with Tywan Mullen, one of the great players, all Big Ten players, hurt, Reese Taylor hurt. So they've been banged up there, but I think that they should be okay coming into this game. They've got to have a running game because, that's one thing that they haven't done well this year is run the ball. I just talked about that earlier. Stephen Carr, good running back, but that offensive line has not done a good enough job opening up the holes. First half, they usually do okay, but by the end of the second half, those yards per carry have dropped to under 3 at a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, and when you look at Maryland, it's kind of the same deal. They've got Tagovailoa in there, and they really like to throw the ball. And when you look at Maryland's offense, Dante Demas was maybe looking like the best receiver in the league through the first few games. He's out for the season. They lose Jashawn Jones, who was their number 3 receiver. He's out for the season. So when you look at Maryland, you're kind of looking at a team that is very pass heavy. They pass the ball, basically 60% of their plays. And they hadn't really established a feature back this year. It's been Tayon Fleet Davis, but he doesn't really have that breakaway speed. So you're looking at a team that wants to throw the ball, but they've had their receiving core depleted. And, I think they need to be a more balanced offense, but we'll see. It's going to be tough. And like you said, Indiana, they've had some injuries, but they've got a good defense. So, I think this is just going to be a really tough, hard-nosed game.
I think it's going to be a defensive battle, no doubt. I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game either. I think it's going to be a game of opportunities, defenses. Somebody's going to have to turn the other guy over. I don't know how offensively how pretty this game is going to be from either side. I think it's probably going to be a defensive-dominated game. But the difference is Maryland does have their quarterback, their normal quarterback in Tagovailoa, who's very talented. So that's going to be a problem for Indiana. They've got to not let him get into any rhythm, but they also have to make sure they don't let him do a Lamar Jackson on him and get a lot of yards on rushing on the ground.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned that because one of the things that, a lot of Maryland fans have been clamoring for this year is, they want to see him actually use his feet more. Surprisingly, he hasn't really done much of, leaving the pocket. He improvises on plays and is good at finding guys downfield, but he hasn't done a lot of running this season. And I think they'd kind of like to see more of that. So, if this is the week, that would be fantastic. But, obviously, you look at his first 4 games, basically no turnovers, all the touchdowns, like a 70% completion percentage. But turnovers have really been a problem of late. And, you kind of touched on it. And, I think you're right. I think this is going to be a game where, It could come down to who has more turnovers, who has more takeaways. But the one other thing I will say, and I think this is going to be big, especially for Maryland, but when you look at the Terps, they're one of the most penalized teams in the country coming into this game, both in penalties and penalty yardage. And it's not just that they commit penalties, but it's that they commit penalties that are just so timely and really hurt them. Big third down opportunities for themselves or the other team. Giving the team other scoring opportunities. So I think if they want to win this game, another thing that's going to have to happen is they really have to cut down on the turnovers and the mental mistakes if they want to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that will be said for both teams, because when you have teams that are precariously propped up, Indiana doesn't have basically a normal quarterback. Maryland has a quarterback, but the rest of the parts are kind of patched in there. You start mixing and matching all those pieces, especially in the middle, late sort of the season. Those guys haven't gotten a lot of reps, those replacements. So you're bringing in guys that have not played a ton. And so mistakes are more than likely to happen.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And, I think Maryland, when you look at this defense this year, you look at their new defensive coordinator, Brian Stewart. I will say one thing he likes to do that they didn't really do last year is he does like to apply a lot of pressure, occasionally bring an exotic blitz, bring someone off the corner, bring a safety. So if they can rattle the quarterback, and again, I think that could maybe help lead to some takeaways. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a big part of this game as well.
Well, at the end of the day, what are you expecting to happen in this game? Like I said, but I mean, this is a must win for both teams. Indiana has virtually no margin for error. And Maryland, not really either, because of the three ranked teams that are coming in, although Penn State is really hobbled. They will have, is that at Penn State or they have them at home?
That's at home this year.
Which will help certainly to that, but still a Penn State team, you would think that even with struggling quarterback issues would be a tough pill for Maryland. So, man, these are just must-win games, like I said, and I don't know. What are you thinking? How do you see it playing out?
I mean, when I look at, first of all, I'm one of those guys that the first thing they does is look at what Vegas thinks, and I see Maryland is a 5-point favorite, and I'll admit I kind of scratched my head a little bit. That said, they're at home. It's homecoming. Indiana's got similar struggles. They're both coming off of 3-game skids. But I agree with you, though. I think it's going to be a tough, hard-nosed game. I think it's going to be low scoring. I'll say I think Maryland pulls out a close, low-scoring game. Let's say maybe 23-24 to 17 or 20, something like that.
It's funny you say that. That's the exact score I picked.
And just kind of, I think they'll just kind of squeak this one out, but I think it could go either way, and it's going to come down to who commits less penalties, who has more takeaways, and just discipline, I think.
Yeah, I think it's funny. You picked the exact score I picked for the game in our predictions for the Hoosier.com. I went the other way. I gave Indiana the hope of winning on that low score, but I think it's going to be a defense is going to have to score, I think, a touchdown. I think special teams for Indiana to win, they're going to have to get a couple of good kicks from Charles Campbell, he's been pretty solid, but they're going to have to get into to the end zone, which has been it was a huge problem for Indiana, even when they had Michael Penix and Jack Tuttle. Until Jack Tuttle led them against Ohio State, but getting into the red zone had been problematic for Indiana. Or scoring from the red zone, rather.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Maryland. I mean, they've had some issues themselves, especially on special teams. Their kicker's done a good job this year, but you look at kickoff coverage, punt coverage. They've had some issues, and at least early in the season, their return men definitely had some issues with some muffs as well. So, while the kicking game hasn't been bad, the return teams and especially the return coverage teams have not been what you would really hope for so far this season for Maryland.
Well, it's certainly not the biggest game on anyone's viewing this weekend, I would say, but there are some games that in the Big Ten there will be big time games to hit, but they're all important. Everybody playing. Man, I cannot thank you enough, and I hope you have a safe trip And if you're happen to be a Maryland fan, make sure you give Scott Green a follow with Terrapin Nation on the Rivals Network. But, man, we appreciate you, and have a safe trip.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
You bet. Scott Green joining us from Terrapin Nation here on the Rivals Network as he is heading off to College Park to watch the Hoosiers and the Terrapins play this weekend. So a lot of people, that's going to be, I don't know how I can say it's going to be a good game, a great game, because I don't think it will be, but I think it's going to be a tight game, which might make it a good game. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a big bettor, but I'm going to take some of Jeffrey the Greek's picks this week and maybe sit down and do that just for the heck of it on a small amount. But I think that the under, that I cannot believe that that's what they have for that Indiana game. Where did I go back to that? It blows my mind that they think that there's going to be nearly 50 points scored in that game. Well, that's, I guess, not too far off from what I had, but I had 41.
Yeah, that would be expecting the team or the game to be like 27, 20-ish, 21.
Yeah. I picked the exact same score that Scott did, 24-17 in our predictions on Rivals.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, I don't know where Indiana's points would come from. It's got to come defensively. And then I kept looking at that Penn State at Ohio State. I'm like, are you kidding me? Is that right? They're an 18.5 point underdog. Number 20, Penn State, 18.5 point underdog. Man.
There's just some teams, whether it's Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, no matter who they're playing, the spread's always way larger than you think it's going to be. Even if they're playing someone else that's ranked, because those are the teams that Vegas thinks have separated themselves from everybody else. And that's just the way that it goes. They're usually right. I'm not saying they're wrong, but that's the way it goes.
I think Michigan's going to win the game. I think they're a better team. They are on the road, but they're getting 4 points. Rutgers is a 1.5 point favorite at Illinois.
Well, one thing you got to think about, even though Illinois upset Penn State last week, their starting quarterback, Art Zakowski, who also used to play at Rutgers, he's not going to be playing this week. He's hurt. So that's probably one reason that you might see Rutgers favored in that.
And the weirdest thing is the winner of that game. Oh, where'd it go? The winner of that game would be only 2 games away from bowl eligibility. Can you believe Rutgers and Illinois both at Rutgers 3-4, Illinois 3-5. So they've only got 4 games left, where Rutgers is a game off. How did they get a game off? The bye week. They haven't. Illinois hasn't had a bye week yet.
No, you got to remember, Illinois has 2 bye weeks because they played in week 0. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. But they're still a game up. So, yeah. Iowa at Wisconsin, the over and under there is only 36. The over and under for Indiana, Maryland is almost 50 points, but Iowa, Wisconsin is only 36.
I think the difference there is that collectively with Iowa and Wisconsin, you have 2 great defenses, whereas with the Indiana, Maryland, you have a good defense, but a very incompetent offense to complement that. Maryland doesn't have necessarily a good defense.
Well, Iowa doesn't score many points either, like you said. And who was it that hasn't scored 20 points?
In a game?
It's Maryland. Maryland hasn't scored more than 20 points in a game since they beat whoever it was. They said it's been like
WVU, West Virginia.
Yeah, so that was early in the season. Minnesota at Northwestern, but what's the top 25? Let's look at those games before we get out of here. Any of them jumping out? West Virginia. Let's see some of these big games. Man, today's been so much fun. Great.
What happens when you get a loaded schedule? Love having a loaded schedule.
Well, so do I. Let's see, North Carolina at Notre Dame. Notre Dame 6-1. Their only loss. To
Don't
Cincinnati.
have many. I guess Ole Miss and Auburn is the only ranked game that's not a Big Ten game this week.
Let's see. Ole Miss to Auburn. Yeah. Ole Miss looking good, man. Lane Kiffin. Kylie's down there having fun. My daughter down at Ole Miss. She's
hop on the Lane train while you can.
She's going to be going to a bowl. She'll be going to a bowl game this year. I'll have to try to cover that. So it's only bowl I'll be going to. Unfortunately. Iowa State, it was Virginia. Number 2, Cincinnati travels to Tulane, who's 1-6. I mean, golly. I don't want to beat on Cincinnati, but they're just not that good. They're okay, but they're not that good.
They're riding off the momentum from last year and the success of this year, and that's what's going to carry them to a potential playoff berth, whether they deserve it or not. That's what's going to happen.
They're not getting a playoff berth.
If they don't lose, they're number 2. I mean, I know we're waiting on the college football playoff rankings, but if they're anywhere close to where they are now,
they're not one of the top 4 teams in the country.
That's true, but that doesn't mean that they won't get in.
I know. They're not better than Georgia. They're not better than Alabama. They're not better than Ohio State. I doubt seriously that I bet you're not better than Michigan. I think that they would finish, if you put them in the Big Ten East, I think that they would finish, if Penn State had a quarterback, 4th. If they don't, 3rd. At best. We got how much?
Now.
Oh, good. Well, I can't thank everybody enough for joining us this week. It has been an absolute blast and a great lineup today. Man, how much fun was that? Alec Lasley from the Hoosier. Make sure you go give him a follow. He'll give you all. We'll have complete coverage of the game this weekend. JQ Roberts joining us from Bloomington North. Looking forward to talking to him in the future. Jeff Green, as well as Scott Green, and Zach Osterman, and Jeffrey the Greek. Been a blast. More importantly, John, the producer, as well. Thank you, guys. Without you, we've got no place and no reason to be here. So go out and have yourselves a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. And until Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.